afternoon, everyone. The Ranter is back to go into yet another rambling diatribe of the news of the day. I made it kind of a personal, endurance test to not do one of these at least until the inauguration had come and gone. I had the feeling that ever since the election was won by Donald Trump, we shouldn't be so hyper-focused on every little thing that he says or does, or at the very least note them for yourselves, but don't go after everything that he says or does each and every single day before he was even in the White House. Because I think one of the things that we get trapped as people who are so politically minded is that we get trapped around the loop of the what if. We who are critics of Donald Trump, who are almost geared ourselves to see the very worst of any situation, looks for the clues no different than any other person who is on the other side, thinking conspiracy theories, or George Soros does this and he's wearing this tie and he raised an eyebrow, so that must mean something. So even though that we do the same thing in our way, I wanted to try to restrain that. I think I only did one video after the election, and it softly glossed on Donald Trump, but didn't really go into all the detail. There is so much that we could talk about in terms of after the election, during the time of the transition, into the inauguration, and this and that, his selection, his crony selection of cabinet members, what he was wanting to do, threatening the media, wanting to buy or militarily take Greenland and the Panama Canal, and if Canada and Mexico can become states, and just all this kind of stuff. And then we have the inauguration, and then the go blind on paperwork sea of executive orders. But if I addressed all that, then this would take hours, because not only I would have to report upon all that, I would have to give my stunning opinion on that. And, I'm middle-aged now, and you would see the gray hairs growing, and it's just... I'll get to those probably in individual videos, but I'm just gonna chop all the outrages up and just do just one. And the one I'm going to start with is the absolute calamity that was the sermon given to Donald Trump on the day of his inauguration by the bishop, Marianne Bunn. It was just terrible. It was just this sermon that she gave that just outraged Donald Trump. And his minions had to come on TV saying that she should be ashamed for herself. So during the ritualistic ceremonies of the inauguration, they went and had the official, church service for the president, and this bishop just said these god-awful, horrible things to Donald Trump, so much so, and it's just an outrage. This is terrible. Oh my goodness, no. And she should be ashamed of herself, and all this other nonsense. Let's first go into what Donald Trump's reaction to this horrible, evil, radical left woke service. Alright. First, he said when he was asked by a reporter after the service if he liked it, he didn't. He pretty much said he didn't like it. It was boring. He could have done better. But now, then, after stewing about it, sitting in probably in the Oval Office, he brought out his royal cushion and his little crown because the Mad King, and just was so pouting. So he went on to his, state-sanctioned troop social, and then he said this. And I will try to do this completely in Trump voice. The so-called bishop who spoke in the National Prayer Service on Tuesday morning was a radical left hardline Trump hater. Oh yeah. She brought her church into the world of politics in a very ungracious way. She was nasty in tone and not compelling or smart, he said. She failed to mention the large number of illegal immigrants who came into our country and killed people. Many were deposited from the jails and mental institutions, he added. It is a giant crime wave that is taking place in the United States. Apart from her inappropriate statements, the service was very boring and uninspiring one. She's not very good at her job. She and her church owe the public an apology. Yeah, so, yeah, he didn't like the service. It's terrible. He'll give a negative review on Yelp. So, yeah. So that was his reaction to this horrible scree of anti-Trump, hard left, woke rhetoric that shocked the nation and made the baby Jesus cry blood, as seen as on OAN. So, for this type of reaction, and for the reaction of those who jumped on the Trump bandwagon and on either on Twitter or on TV denounced her, let us see what she actually said that was so woke, so hard left, and so Trump hating. From the Bishop Marianne Bud, scusies. She says, this is from the transcripts, this is posted on Forbes. Let me make one final plea, Mr. President. Millions have put their trust in you, and as you told the nation yesterday, you have felt the providential hand of the loving God. In the name of our God, I ask you to have mercy upon the people in our country who are scared now. There are gay, lesbian, and transgender children in Democratic, Republican, and independent families. Some who fear for their lives. The people who picked our crops and clean our office buildings, who labor in poultry farms and meat packing plants, who wash dishes after we eat in restaurants and work the night shifts at hospitals. They may not be citizens or have proper documentation, but the vast majority of immigrants are not criminals. They pay taxes. They are good neighbors. They are faithful members of our churches and mosques, synagogues, and temples. I ask you to have mercy, Mr. President, on those in our communities whose children fear that their parents will be taken away, and that you help those who are fleeing war zones and persecutions in their own lands to find compassion and welcome here. Our God teaches us that we are to be merciful to the stranger, for we were all once strangers in this land. May God grant us the strength and courage to honor the dignity of every human being, to speak the truth to one another in love and walk humbly with each other and our God, for the good of all people, in this nation and the world. Amen. Okay. That was the horrible, hard left, violently woke scree of anti-Trump hatred. Just terrible. Only an insecure, pathetic, man-child, mad king tyrant would find that sermon, that plea for mercy, to be against him, to be to, to be the stand of resistance against his dominating rule. How dare she question his his plans and machinations, which she didn't even do. But how dare she ask for mercy for these immigrants and these deviant transgender people, which, according to executive order, transgenderism no longer exists. There's only men, there's only women. You have gender dysphoria, you believe you're not in the right body or the right gender makeup of what your mind and soul tells you are. Too bad. Under my EO, no, you don't exist no more. We won't do anything about gender affirming care. None of that anymore. Donald Trump is pouting and irritated at this because he wants to have a nice, wonderful, clean slate to do his evil things. And I'm going to use the term evil here as his reaction towards this bishop's sermon may as well be the reaction of someone who is possessed or is infernally evil getting doused with holy water. One of the things that Donald Trump said in his interviews, especially talking about the mass deportation, was he didn't like how the media, portrayed him in his talks of deportations, and how people report on how people got rounded up, and it never looked good when, a mother's torn away from a child. Doesn't mean he says he didn't want to do it, he just didn't like how people reported that it was happening. I tend to think that the pre-inauguration day kerfuffle with the media, where he was threatening the media and he got the money from the defamation suit for ABC because ABC just sort of like, yeah, whatever, take it, over the horrible defaming of what George Stephanopoulos said about him, or their stance that, he as merely a sexual assaulter that he's liable for. This was anywhere in the neighborhood of rape. Yeah, they really did not need to give up on that, and they should have pissed on his demand. And when you think about the actual price tag of settling the defamation, it came off rather cheap in this day and age of massive lawsuits, especially in the high-level political ones. So he just wanted to have a nice, clean, no one bother him, intimidate the media so they don't report it, enjoyment of deporting vast sums of people. And, the defenders of this wanting to do this will suggest that it's all about about going after the criminals, the violent ones, the ones that actually hurt people. Well, that's great and all. However, the thing about it is they don't glow in the dark. And he's not only going after the criminals, but he's also going after everybody else, including their children. Even if their children happen to be born in the United States, he wants to end by EO, birthright citizenship, so that those bastard little migrant children of these illegals can't call themselves American. Yeah, well, that's a constitutional amendment. You can't just EO your way out of a constitutional amendment. And it's already a federal judge putting a temporary stay on that order. Well, that's great and all, but he can't do it anyway through executive order, but it's a nice thought, nice gesture. However, that doesn't seem to stop him from thinking that it does. And as long as people will, prop him up in what he thinks, in what they sycophantically will try to push in order to stay in his good graces, they'll say, sure, you can get rid of birthright citizenship with a simple EO on a construction paper with your fucking crayon. Sure. No, the same thing is, we can't EO our way into changing all the world's maps to say that the Gulf of Mexico is the Gulf of America. And I digress. I'm staying on one topic. Only a tyrant, an insecure tyrant, would have a problem with what this bishop has said. I may not be an expert on Christianity as much as any of the worships of the gods. I'm actually fairly recently not much of a fan of the popular version of God. Maybe I'll come back to that someday and return to simply being agnostic, but right now, no. But I tend to believe that the whole concept of Christianity and the teachings of Jesus kind of bent towards the concept of mercy, of being a friend to the stranger, not casting them out. But what do I know, right? So what will Donald Trump do now that his ego has been so damaged by this bishop, in her words? How is he going to force and elicit an apology? I floated an idea on the social networks that he would go so far as to try to revoke the tax exemption for the Episcopalian Church. Do you think he would go that far? Of course he would. He doesn't care about institutions. He has no vaulted veneration for that. I mean, as long as certain Christians out there, are in near worship to him, then he'll certainly glad hand them, and say his his favorite quotations of like 2 Corinthians walk into a bar. And as I said earlier, how I didn't really want to go and hang on every single word of this fucking guy for the next 4 years, and react to everything he does or does not do. But in this instance, it does bear at least a tiny, teeny, tiny moment of acknowledgement how he took the oath without putting his hand on the Bible. Now, generally speaking, it doesn't much matter to me. But you would think for people who are so hardcore, gosh darn evangelical Christians, who thinks that Donald Trump is the second coming, and he doesn't put his hand, even superficially on the book of your God, to swear an oath to that God, to faithfully execute the office of President of the United States, that you might have some sort of issue with that. If you don't think he's already a deified figure and it doesn't much matter. But if you believe in God, and you believe that Trump is one of your servants of God, that he is a prime servant and your religion almost beckoned you to go and vote for him, in one simple gesture of not putting his hand on the Bible, he is expressing the fact that he does not need to give an oath to God. That is not required for him. that he is above that. Let the little people who believe, put their hands on the Bible, and that will be that super duper seal to prevent him from lying, because you swore to God. He doesn't even want to swear to God. I don't think that's because he would be afraid of the fact of what he would do if he took this oath and he's lying through his fucking teeth, and that a vengeful, retributive God would strike him down and cast him out. I don't think he believes that. I don't think he believes that. As much as no more than he believes it enough to merchandise off of it, as he did on those who attempted to assassinate him. Yes, God saved him. God bent the bullet. He totally saved him so he could be president. Yeah, then that same God bent that bullet to kill a firefighter. So that bullet went, oh no, better not hit Trump. And killed a firefighter, a loving husband, and a father. An actual hero. In any event, now, if you're not offended by that if you had the religious zeal and your religion was telling you to vote for this man, and with your blinders on to how he is a frequent breaker of all the 7 deadly sins, then maybe your religion is not Christianity. Maybe your religion is politics. Maybe you are the type of person who, when you call themselves Christian conservatives, it's not the Christian part that's the important part, it's the conservative part, because that makes it seem like being a Christian conservative is the same as being a fiscal conservative, meaning that the Christianity and or the fiscalness is the flavor of the conservative. You're the conservative first, and being Christian is second. The loyalty to party more than the loyalty to God. And not even loyalty to party, to loyalty to this one man. The old party, the Republican Party, the party that would tout itself being the party of Reagan, and pretty much no one else, because if you go farther back, then Republicans actually were pretty fucking decent people, and the whole party was a pretty decent one before the Goldwater-Johnson switch. So we wouldn't want to go past Reagan. Certainly don't want to go back to Lincoln, because Lincoln was the liberal candidate, and the Republicans was the liberal party back then. But in any event, what Mary Ann Budd, the Episcopalian bishop, said was not offensive. It was not hard left. It was barely really woke. And it certainly wasn't Trump hating. She was expressing a plea of mercy to the people who are scared in this country. And that's not radical. That's not even really supposed to be unusual. That's not woke. That's not being anti-Trump. That's being a Christian. That is the doctrine of Christianity. Unless love thy neighbor is just a cute little slogan. There is plenty more that's going to come from this Trump administration within these first 100 days. And there's so many people to have an annoyance with our happenings. And things are going to be thrown here and there. It's not just going to be at Donald Trump. It's going to be about everyone, either directly or indirectly, or even in, shall we say, with good intentions, screwed us over to have us into this situation. But all that will be addressed in their own individual videos. This was just upon the sermon of Bishop Mary M. Budd and how Donald Trump reacted to it like a vampire getting doused in holy water. The ranter rants because the urge to rant is always rising. And just because personal tragedy has come and gone in my life, I'm still here. And I'll be back.